Publius Vergilius Maro, or Virgil, had a rather short span of life. He lived for 51 years, from 70 BC to 19 BC. But in this short span of life, what it was produced was enough to make him an immortal name. And especially the epic that he left for the posterity is outstanding on many counts. The Aeneid, which is the name of the epic, was written in a span of 11 years. Probably he started writing this epic in BC 19 and continued writing it till his death. And therefore, the epic, technically speaking, is left unfinished. But even this unfinished epic, as I said earlier, has been acclaimed throughout the world as one of the greatest epics of the antiquity, and almost a rival to Homer's The Iliad. Now, well, not a mean thing to refer to this epic, the Aeneid, as a possible rival to Homer's great epic, the Iliad. And Virgil did not imitate Homeric tradition, although definitely he followed the Homeric tradition of writing epics, but he did not imitate. And the Aeneid has a number of distinctive features, which we shall try to discuss briefly in this short lecture of mine. The epic starts with the journey of the epic hero or the central character Aeneid, who starts his journey from Troy, and his journey ends in the new land Latinum, which we know as Italy today. And it is said that from this point, the point when Aeneid landed on this new country, the history of the Roman people started. And this Aeneid is responsible for the foundation of a new race, the Roman race, the Roman people. And the Roman history starts from there. So this epic, the Aeneid, in a way, may be called, may be described as celebration of the foundation of the Roman Empire and restoration of peace after the violence and destruction of the Trojan War. The Trojan Empire was destroyed. The Trojan people were rendered helpless, and Aeneas on his shoulders took up the responsibility of rescuing and saving these people. So in a ship he started his journey with some men, and well, it was not a very safe, not a very comfortable journey. On the way, they faced so many things, so many hardships, and finally they reached the land. So this journey of Aeneas is perhaps the most important point. The story of love is there, of course. The story of love between Aeneas and Dido was invented by Virgil, and this story became the most important Roman myth for the future generations. Virgil's the Aeneid, in fact, the text of the poem comes to us from the speech of the poet, who is as if the divine messenger. The poet here acts as the divine messenger. He tells us the story. And here we have a number of questions. Now, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the muse here? How does Virgil use the invocation part of the poem? Does he take up the invocation simply as a convention, an epic convention which was started by Homer? Or does he want to look upon the muse simply as a memorator, one who reminds the poet? Because, well, we know that well. Invocation is a prayer for inspiration. But there is no prayer for inspiration, at least in Book 1. In Book 1, we do not have any prayer for inspiration. And I shall read out the two lines where the invocation starts. In Book 1, line 12 and line 13. Now, these are the two lines, of course, in translation, in English translation. Well, muse, bring to mind the cause, what to her divinity made the Queen of Heaven. Now, please note, bring to mind the cause. Bring to mind, meaning remind me the cause. So, as I said, did he take up the invocation, the work, the purpose of the invocation as a memorator, the muse as a memorator? Well, at least we can say that in book 1, well, Virgil uses the invocation in a different way, different from the technique, different from the way Homer used it. And we can say that the invocation in book 1 at least is simply a prologue, or it serves the purpose of the prologue and nothing else. Only in book 7 Virgil invokes Erato, the muse of poetry, for inspiration. So no prayer for inspiration in book 1. Only in book 7 the muse, there is another muse, and this time the invocation is for inspiration. And poet here, we can see the poet here seeks the help of the muse to help him to narrate the rest of the story. Now, well, two relevant lines I can read. Work on me now, I am to tell what kings there were in Latinum. So work on me, inspire me, or rather help me. So invocation in Virgil is not exactly like the invocation of Homer in book 1 at least. This is the distinctive feature of Virgil. Virgil was different. There is another thing we can definitely mention. We know that in an epic, one of the techniques is medias res, meaning the beginning in the middle. The story of the epic begins in the middle. But in Virgil's the Aeneid, this medias res, this technique is not used. In Virgil's epic, the beginning is from the beginning of the action. The epic begins with the journey of Aeneas. So there too, well, we can say there is a deviation from Homer. Now, well, what about the central character, the epic hero? Aeneas is the hero of the epic, the Aeneid. Now, who is this Aeneas? The epic hero must be larger than life. Is Aeneas larger than life? We can refer to the parents of Aeneas. Aeneas was born of a mortal father and an immortal mother. Aeneas's father was Anchises. Anchises was a member of the royal family of Troy. But Aeneas's mother was a divine deity, Aphrodite. So, born of a mortal father and an immortal mother, so by the virtue of birth, Aeneas was definitely larger than life. There are 3 references to Aeneas in Homer's The Iliad. And on one occasion, Aeneas is described as the counselor of the Trojans. He was a very wise man, we can say, therefore, a counselor of the Trojans, the royal family of Troy. And he is equal to God like Hector, a Neptune. Sea god refers to him as the progenitor of a new and mighty race. So, what is Aeneas? The progenitor of a new and mighty race. Aeneas has the courage to accept the challenge. The challenge, well, if we read the epic, we know that, well, the challenge was thrown to him by another deity, Juno. But he had the courage to accept the challenge of Juno, and to proceed with his journey. So, he is the leader of the people whom he was trying to rescue, whom he was trying to give a new land to live a peaceful life. So he was the leader, and he had all the leadership qualities. And as the leader, he demonstrates great courage, tenacity, and power of endurance. And he makes his journey not as an aimless wanderer, but as a quester with a definite purpose. So, Aeneas has all the qualities of an epic hero. And well, in between the love story, as I refer to it, the affair between Aeneas and Dido, well, which has definitely a romantic flavor, and which definitely, at least for the time being, distracted Aeneas from his definite purpose. But Aeneas could rise above that. Well, the romantic attraction of the beautiful Dido was compelling enough, but Aeneas was destined to be the founding father of a new race. So, he could not be distracted from his ultimate purpose. Although there was a tragic end to the love story, but it had to be, because Aeneas had to stick to his purpose, the ultimate purpose. And Aeneas did not hesitate to abandon his love, to move on with his journey till the end. So, Aeneas is definitely a befitting tragic hero. And the Aeneid, well, it is true that the Aeneid cannot, well, be said completely free from Homeric influence. The influence of Homer was definitely so compelling that any aspiring epic poet had to accept it. And Virgil's epic, the Aeneid, is also more or less modeled on Homer's great epics. It is true that the Aeneid, at least Virgil's, the first 6 books of the Aeneid, was modeled on the Odyssey, and the concluding 6 books were modeled on the Iliad. It's true that there is no denying the fact, but Virgil was essentially a nationalist, and the Aeneid is an epic with a purpose. What is the purpose? To glorify a new nation. So the Aeneid is the national epic. Yes, as I said, the Aeneid is the national epic of Rome. It is the national epic of Rome. And the chief concern of Virgil is not to depict or show or highlight or focus on the life and adventures of Aeneas, but the purpose of the epic is to describe, or rather narrate, the events of the life of a race or a people who were thrown out of their land and who set up a new country and started a new life. In other words, the purpose of the epic is to narrate the founding of an empire, a new empire, and the glory of a nation, of the country and the people is highlighted in this epic. So, the Aeneid has another very important feature. It is to be looked upon as the national epic of a country and its people. And the achievement of Virgil is therefore no less great than the achievement of his predecessor, Homer. Thank you. At the end of the lecture, I make one correction Uh, I said that probably Virgil started writing the epic, the Aeneid, in the year 19 BC. No, that's wrong. It should be this. Probably he started writing the epic in BC 30 and continued writing it till his death in BC 19. Thank you very much.